Hey guys, Caroline here. This is the fourth video in my series of match betting in 2020. And what I'm going to be talking about in this video are the risks and the requirements to get started. So in the last video, I said that it's largely very low risk, but it's not completely risk-free. It's often being advertised as being something that's risk-free, and it isn't really. Once you have placed a matched bet, as I showed you in the example video, which I think was the second video in the series, there's no risk there. You're not going to lose your money in any way. But the risk comes with simply making mistakes, human error. Now, when you get started, you'll find that it's fairly simple, the basic ones, but there are more complex offers that can be done later on down the line. And it's quite common to make mistakes. Most people make a few when they're starting out. I certainly have done. If you have a look through the archives of my channel here, you'll find several videos where I show what mistakes I've made. Now, hopefully, this course is going to help you with that, because I'm going to be walking through step by step each individual component, and whenever there's something that I know that I've made a mistake in, I'll point that out. So hopefully it will be minimal, and if you do make mistakes, it doesn't really matter, because you move on, you learn from it, and you carry on. That's pretty much the only risk in match betting in terms of losing your money, which is what people are most worried about. It's not people think, oh, it's gambling, and therefore if the football team doesn't win, you lose. It's not like that at all. So that's not the kind of risks. Now, one thing that there is a risk of is that your bookie accounts, which you create, are going to be restricted in some way. So I mentioned in the last video that you could make a certain amount of money per month ungubbed. So I'm just going to briefly explain what it means by gubbed and ungubbed, and I'll be going into more detail in this in later videos. Basically, match betting relies on the bookmaker sending you offers. You complete those offers, you get the reward from it, which is quite often a free bet or some kind of boost token, and that's where you make your money. Once you've been doing this for a little while, the bookmaker usually kind of catches on that all you're doing is taking their best offers, and they're not really making any money from you. And then what usually happens is they send you a nice polite little email saying, we've decided to have a look at your account, and we're not going to give you any offers anymore. You're not eligible for future promotions. And once that happens, the amount of money you can make from that bookmaker drastically reduces. Now, sometimes what they do instead is they don't block you from doing promotions, but instead they simply restrict how much stake you can place on any particular bet. So you might have an offer where, if you put £10 on this particular football match, we'll give you a £5 free bet. You go and try to place your £10 bet and find it restricted. You can only put 80p on it or something. You can't complete the offer. Now, once you get restricted from bookmakers, it's pretty much game over for that account. You're not going to be able to make any money if all you can bet is pennies. And that is a very real thing. This gubbings and restrictions is something that happens all the time. I have had a lot of accounts restricted, and this is another reason why people like to start again on another set of accounts, multi-accounting. In very rare cases, you can have your account completely closed. I've only ever had that happen twice, and I've got now close to 100 accounts. So that doesn't happen very often. But if you're someone that likes to bet for your own for your own enjoyment, and if you've got, say, a few bookmaker accounts that are your favorites, you might want to set those aside and not use those for match betting, because it's quite possible that you'll get them restricted. Having said that, the longer you've had an account, the less likely that is to happen. So I'll talk about that in more detail later on, but it's just something to be aware of. And the last thing that I want to talk about here is, of course, your placing bets at bookmakers. There's a risk for a gambling addiction. If you have any kind of addictive personality, then be very careful with this. And it's not just in terms of betting, because most of these bookmakers now also operate casinos, online casinos, and if you sign up to them for sports, they are also going to send you casino offers. Now, casino is a whole other ballgame, and you can in fact make some good money with casino, which is something I might cover in yet another series, but not for this one. But it does mean that you're going to get those emails. They are going to entice you in. And if you don't know what you're doing, you will lose money, certainly on the casino. And so, if you think there's any risk that you're going to get sucked in, or if you find yourself getting excited by it, be careful. Just be careful. You know, there's help online. So that's all I'm going to say about that, really. You know, in terms of the risks. So let's talk about the requirements to get started. So you will need a little bit of money up front, not a lot. Now, I personally started with £100. This was in 2018, but I wanted to ramp up very fast. I wanted to do as many offers as I could in a short space of time. I wanted to get as many bookmaker accounts open, and in actual fact, I added another 500 about 2 weeks in, once I realized this really was real and I was making good money. The less money you have to start with, all that means is you have to start a bit slower. So you'll have to do one offer, you get the money from it, you withdraw it back to your bank account, and then you can do the next one, and so on. But you see, right now, I'm recording this series in May of 2020, where we've got the coronavirus, and right now a lot of the sports are still suspended, and so there's not an awful lot to do. So this is a pretty good time to do it, because it's fine if you just want to take the offer slowly. So if you've only got, you know, 30 quid to start off with, that's perfectly fine. Now, I recommend a computer to do this, actual laptop with a decent sized screen. But I'm aware that as time passes, computers are becoming less and less common as people turn more towards their mobile devices. You can do match betting entirely on a mobile phone, but you're going to have to be pretty nimble with that screen. Match betting is going to require you quite often to have more than one screen open. If you looked at one of the previous videos where I showed you an example, you might want to have a bookmaker account open on one screen. You might want to have a tool showing you a calculator or something, and then you might want to have an exchange on another screen and checking things. And if you're doing that all on a tiny little phone screen, it gets fiddly. So I would suggest, if you don't have a computer, buy one. Just get yourself a cheap laptop. If you don't like that idea, a tablet. If you've got a tablet like a 10-inch size, that's going to be a lot easier to see than a phone. But it can be done on pretty much any device. So the next thing you're going to need is a bit more time, of course. You know, this is easy money, but it does take time. It's a bit of work. And as I mentioned in a previous video, the amount of time you have determines how much money you can make. You can do this for 2 hours a week. You won't make very much money, but it's fine. If you've only got a little bit of time, you just do what you can. You know, you start with the most lucrative offers. If you've got 10 hours a week, great. You're probably going to be able to do a lot more and make a lot more money. Now, one other little caveat for that is that because this is betting on sports, most sporting events happen at the weekends and in the evenings. And for some of those offers, you can place the bets well in advance, which is fine, but not all of them. Some of them, for example, require you to place an in-play bet. So you might have something like, if you place a bet while there's a particular football match in play, then they'll give you a free bet afterwards. And this is quite common. So of course you have to be at your computer at that time in order to do that. So that can be restrictive for people that have, you know, family time and stuff like that. So that's just something to be aware of. And the last thing here, the drive to actually take action. Now, this is something that I like to talk about, and this is in general. This isn't just match betting. This is anything in life. You know, at the end of the day, watching videos does do nothing to put money in your bank. Absolutely nothing. My videos here are quite useless if you don't follow up on them. You do actually have to get started. You have to do something other than watching a video. So I will try to structure this course in a step-by-step way to make it easier, to make it less overwhelming, because I know people do get overwhelmed and think, oh, I don't know where to start. So I'm going to try to do the course in a way that I'm dripping out videos, you know, slowly. I'm trying to do short videos that are kind of easy to follow and that you can do step by step, so you don't feel overwhelmed and it's easy to jump in, but you do need to take that action. So I hope you will. Okay, that is it for this video. Now in the next one, I'm actually going to get started with how do you start. There are a few preparatory steps that you need to take before placing your first bets, and they'll take a few days. So that's what's going to be covered in the next video. Okay, I hope you found this useful, and thank you very much for watching.